Hello, everyone. I'm Patricia Butler. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ArtistWorks. And today we are going to be joined by our latest addition to our roster, Mr. Noam Pikelny, and his lovely musical partner and wife, Caitlin Canty. We're going to open this live stream broadcast with a tune that is called Hard Times. And this is a tribute to all of those who are on the front lines. And we would also like to honor those who are ill and perhaps honor the families who have lost someone due to this health crisis. So I give you Noam Pikelny and Caitlin Canty.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears while we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a song that'll linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. It's a song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. While we seek mirth and beauty and music light and gay, there are frail forms fainting at the door. Though their voices are silent, their pleading looks will say, oh, hard times come again no more. It's a song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard
Applause, applause. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that music with us. Really very appropriate tune for today's environment, isn't it? My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well.
That's how you know a good song.
Yes, for
Holds
those
up
who
over
are.
time.
I'm sorry?
I said that's how you know a good song. It holds up over time.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
fresh meaning to this one.
It makes it a classic, I believe. Well, thank you again for joining us. We're with Noam Pikelny and Caitlin Canty. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with ArtistWorks, we are an online music instruction company, and we work with world-renowned musicians like Noam Pikelny, who teach online using our video exchange platform. And they've come into our studio, some of them longer than others, to record just about everything they know, so that you can learn to play anything that you want to play. And we are really, really lucky that Noam was able to come into the studio in February, and I think even the early part of March, to finish recording his online banjo lessons so that we could now have them available to the public. You were with us for a while, Noam. How was it? 8 or 9 days in the studio?
I think it was 10 days. 10 days total. Yeah.
I loved every moment of it.
Exactly.
It was all good.
It was a marathon. It's
Yeah,
a
it was.
marathon. I've never experienced anything quite like that. Obviously, you know, I've been in the studio recording albums for that amount of time or longer, but when you're recording an album, there's usually other people who are part of the process where you're not always the one playing at all times and the one on camera. And so it's a really intense and surreal thing to be teaching and trying to start from square one of how to put on banjo picks and then get all the way to teaching, you know, something that I'm currently playing on stage. And so it was a marathon, but quite enjoyable. You have a great crew of people there who were with me every step of the way. So I would have lost my mind if it wasn't for Marcus and Jordan there in production. So
Yeah, I know. Those are,
experience.
you definitely have the A team, and I know you worked a lot with John Graves as well, and getting the curriculum together, and it really all came together beautifully. And this is the fastest growing course that we have at ArtistWorks right now. It's incredibly popular, and I meant to tell you that before we actually went on air. But now you know. You've even outdone rock and roll. Sorry, Paul Gilbert, but it's all
Banjo
it's all good.
beats rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you know?
Long ago, I said, I don't know, it probably was to David, where do you learn to play the banjo? And this was before we even were working with Tony Trischka. I mean, you got to learn it from somebody else. You go buy a book. You know, it's event driven. You know, it's really, you've got to go seek it out. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a good presence for this wonderful instrument that enjoys a very close community. So that's all really good. It's all happening, you know, wonderfully, and it's off to a really fast start.
It's great.
So I definitely want to get into the questions for sure here, but we also have quite a few people just coming and saying hello and a couple of questions. I want to thank Susan for being with us again. I don't think she's missed a single live broadcast.
Amazing. Awesome.
So Susan is with us, and then Eric Anderson, and
Hey, Eric.
this might be somebody that you know.
Hi, Mom.
It's already happening.
That's your mom. That's great. That's great.
That's right.
That's nice. And David Dahl. And I have seen Becky on here before. She likes the bluegrass music. And let's see, there was another one here. Oh, I thought this was nice. I got to put this one up. I don't know this person, but I thought, what a nice thing for him to say.
Wow.
So.
Nobody's heckling us just yet?
No, it'll happen. Trust me, it'll
Because
happen.
my fifth string slipped a little bit out of tune there. And I was thinking, there's probably going to be 100 comments about my fifth string being out of tune. People wanting a refund on a free live stream. People demanding a refund on a free live stream. Hasn't happened yet?
No,
Hey
it
from
hasn't
Chattanooga.
happened. But don't be cheating and putting that don't put that Fitbit on your dog and run around the
Yeah.
run around the yard. What happened with that whole thing? I mean, now you got quite a cast of characters in that recent video that came
with
out.
the video?
I loved it.
Yeah, well, thank you. If anyone out there hasn't seen this video,
Is it possible?
is it possible? Yeah, we try to plaster it everywhere on the internet. But we made this promo video that came out last week. I wrote this script with a good friend of mine named Greg Hess, who's an amazing writer and actor and improviser. And along with Greg and this director and editor named Steve Delahoyd, we made this video. That trio, we worked together a few years ago to put together this kind of fake mockumentary around a solo album release of mine. And so this was this really fun trio of brilliant people. Those guys, brilliant. Two guys. It was amazing to have this trio with two geniuses that I was working with. Yeah, we wanted to, so I have this tradition of making some kind of comedic video to go alongside any kind of major release. And I told John Graves, your vice president there, that when we were working on this school, I said, we're going to have to do a video. Like, I'm putting as much time into this as a record. I'm putting more time into this than like any single record. It was a massive amount of preparation. So we're going to have to finish this with some kind of celebratory, ridiculous video. And that was always the plan, but we didn't foresee everyone being in lockdown.
Right.
Under a pandemic, and so the school was getting ready to launch, and I wanted to make this video. And the last time Steve and Greg and I had worked together, they all flew to Nashville, and we spent a couple days filming in various places, and we knew that wouldn't be possible given the lockdown orders. And so we had to come up with a concept of a video that could be filmed entirely from home, that I could film my parts from home, and that all of the guests could film on their iPhones, and that we would use some of the footage we had, ridiculous interview footage from when I was out in Napa. And so this concept came along where I had this idea, well, if we focus this on the video exchange, which is often misunderstood, that we could maybe shine some light on the video exchange while incorporating this back and forth kind of pen pal type thing in the video where we go from one screen to the next, and it would be a really good springboard for kind of hilarity. And those guys agreed to it, and you guys agreed to it, and
It was great.
It was really fun, fun to make it.
Yeah, you take direction very well.
I'm a master actor.
I don't know. I might argue with that.
Well, you said you were an overdub something or other.
Oh yeah, amateur voiceover artist. That's actually partially true.
That's true.
And that at one point I got an audition in New York City to meet with a voiceover scout, like talent scout.
Oh my gosh.
And a friend connected me. A friend came to a show and thought I had a good speaking voice, and then connected me with this person. And I went and had these interviews, and he set me up with a couple auditions. But I'm pretty sure he knew that it would never pan out. He just wanted to talk to me and ask me questions about what it was like working with Steve Martin. He was a great guy, but the whole interview was kind of like, so what was it like hanging around Steve Martin? I told him.
Oh my goodness. Well, the world of banjo and bluegrass would be far less if you did well in that audition and decided to do voiceovers instead of play the banjo.
Yeah,
For real.
It would
So
be a
I'm
different
pleased.
life for sure.
Yeah. But, I do find it interesting, affirming also that, folks like Ed Helms, Kevin Nealon, Steve Martin, and I'm sure there are a lot of others that they play banjo and they're unapologetic about it. I love that,
Yeah, and
love it.
They're
really
good.
good players as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
indeed. So you two have collaborated in the past. Noam, didn't you produce one of Caitlin's CDs?
My last record. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
Oh.
The last one I put out. Yep. You did.
When was that? In 2015, 14? Who knows?
We put it out in 2018.
Came out in 2018. It
Yeah.
was a record of Caitlin's called Motel Bouquet, and by that point we had been dating and living with each other, and Caitlin had been writing these songs around the house, and I kept hearing them around the house, and would sit and play them around the house. And it was a long, winding path to me actually making the record, to recording on it.
Well,
But
we also co-wrote 2 of the songs. We were playing a couple shows, pickup shows. Noam is usually, well, at least at that time, was wildly busy with Punch Brothers, and I was touring on my own. And I usually will either play solo or duo, or I'll do a 3-day tour, and it might be with just Noam, or the next time it might be with a trio. So every once in a while, Punch Brothers would be playing Boise, and the next night I'd be playing Boise. So Noam and I would play a show together, or it felt like we were collaborating a lot, kind of off the cuff. And then when we started living together, and he was hearing these songs, and it's a lot when you're writing a song and you hear Noam like, "What was that? That was great. What was that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna finish that song. Hang on."
Yeah.
And
it's a funny kind of language when I've noticed this living with Caitlin, living with a musician, and then just being in a band with people where people are playing and writing all the time. That if you're playing something, that you're working on something, whether you're writing or practicing something, and if Caitlin says, "Oh, that's cool," or if a bandmate, if Chris Eldridge or Gabe Wisher, they say, "Oh, that's cool." When someone says that's cool, that means it's not that cool.
Yeah.
When someone says, "Hey, do that again."
oh yeah,
Do that again.
Yeah.
That's when you're onto something.
I understand.
When I'd hear Caitlin playing something and I'd say, "Hey, do that again." Or I'd be playing something in the basement and Caitlin would say, "Hey, what's that? Do that again."
or I'd just
That's
sneakily
what you
record
need to
it
hear.
on the voice memo.
It's not enough to hear someone say, "Hey, that's cool." You need to.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you don't
earn
want
that
someone showing
request
off.
for another repetition of the thing. So
Totally.
it's a
I
lot
think
of-
there's a difference too when you're married, because when your bandmates say, "Yeah, that's cool," it's like, well, they want to keep the water smooth. But when your husband when your husband or your wife says, "Well, I really like that," they have no motivation,
True.
they're going to tell you, "Oh, that's not good," or "I really like that a lot," and you can really feel good about that comment because there's no,
I don't know. I feel like you might have to keep the waters smoother in a marriage because with a band, eventually the tour ends. This tour never ends.
Never-ending
So
tour.
we have to keep it smooth.
I guess it depends on the marriage, so I stand
Yeah.
corrected.
That's true. We weren't married when we made that record, though. So that was a while back. And then when the record came out, the release got pushed for a variety of reasons, but it pushed to 2 weeks around our wedding. I think it was 2 weeks before our wedding it came out. And so we were touring right up until the wedding, and then touring after and doing press stuff. And we just didn't want to. There's like 5 seconds of attention people give you, and if you tell them you're getting married and putting out a record, they'll be like, when are you getting married?
Yeah. In hindsight,
What are you
dress.
wearing? Exactly.
you
And so it's
yeah.
like,
In hindsight, we would have just combined it all. The wedding would have been an album release party. Would have sold tickets.
Oh,
we would have
man.
a merch table. Just,
Saved so much money.
Press releases, everything. But next time.
combine the photo shoots.
Oh yeah, that's right. You should have put your wedding picture on the front of the album or something.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we've got
Yeah.
a couple of questions here. Is it okay if I just put a few questions up so
sure.
you guys can
Yeah.
answer them here? I'm
Sure.
just going to leave you on the screen so that we can answer some questions. Now, can you see that from where you are?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Noam, you aren't playing your top tension Gibson. What model banjo is that? From DPG Rant 87. That's not much of a rant. That's pretty friendly. DPG
Yeah,
Rant
that's
87.
a nice rant.
That's a very friendly rant.
Yes.
Good eye. This is a banjo I have never ever played in front of an audience or in front of a microphone until today.
Oh, wow.
This is a 1929 Vega. What is it called? It's a Vega Artist Vegaphone. It's made by a company called Vega, which was a Boston banjo maker. A lot of the banjo companies in the teens, 20s, and 30s were either out of New York, Boston, or Connecticut. And Vega was a major Boston maker, and this is a rare 5-string banjo of theirs that they made with a resonator of this style. And I got it last year because I'd never seen one before, and I love how it sounds. And these aren't kind of like museum pieces. Well, I think it's a museum piece, but it doesn't cost as much as a house because
That's
This
good.
wasn't the model that Earl Scruggs or J.D. Crowe ever played, and so it's a completely different sound than a Gibson. And I'm playing it right now because when Caitlin and I play duo shows or duo record, I usually use this crazy instrument,
Oh, wow.
which is a kind of a resonator, 4-string long neck tricone resonator guitar. I'll use that if we play some more, because I found that like my Gibson banjo, which is set up to be able to compete like in a 5-piece ensemble like Punch Brothers, it's like a really powerful and loud instrument, and when we're playing together, it's just overpowering. And so that's why I've been playing this metal-bodied tricone thing most of the time when Caitlin and I are playing. But today I thought, you know what, I'm gonna see if I could like get out a banjo. You know, I haven't really even tried this thing since I got it about 8 months ago, and I thought maybe it's quiet and kind of mellow, and it just seemed like it fits better for just the two of us playing. And so it's a completely different sound. And if I went to a bluegrass gig with this, it would almost be inaudible because it doesn't have like the frequencies to cut through a mix. But for something intimate like this, it felt like a nice sound, and at least a nice experiment.
Kind of the nice thing about not touring is you don't have to pick which guitar or which banjo you're taking out with you, because usually you can't be carrying 18 banjos through,
Right.
One day
through
though.
TSA one day, yeah.
Private jet.
But it does mean, for this live show, we can pick whichever friend is feeling right.
So yeah,
I'm
hopefully
glad-
it sounds good out there.
Yeah, I'm glad they make a good banjo. I drove a Vega when I was young. A car.
Oh yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good.
Yeah, it is a pretty. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things with that name. It's
Yeah. It must mean something.
what does Vega mean?
I don't know.
Is it like, does it mean like apex or something like that? It's some kind of
It could be.
positive term.
Interesting.
I can't remember, but I have a handful of banjos that I own just because if someone like this, a guy brought this to a show in Maine and said, "Hey, I have a banjo I want to show you. I've owned it for the last 25 years. It's really special, but I think it's time for me to sell it." And I looked at it; it was beautiful and sounded great. And I talked to the experts, and nobody else has ever seen one of this designation.
Wow.
And so I was like, at the time I could afford it, and I was like, how does one pass something up that's this cool and beautiful? And so it's actually, I was in such a good mood earlier today when we started playing. I'm like, this isn't just a wall. This isn't just like wall art. This actually sounds great.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put it to use.
But you don't buy anything that doesn't have a soul and sound great. It's just the way.
Yeah, but it takes time. It takes time to figure out the way to set up an instrument or what its voice is or what its purpose is. So I'm glad to have it here.
Well, I think you teed us up perfectly because I personally would love to hear you play something again together and sing together.
Sure.
There's a lot of questions are building up over here, but I think it's just sort of a perfect time to hear some music.
Sure.
Sure.
So what would you like to play for us?
You want to do Get Up?
If you want to.
Yeah, we'll do a tune of Caitlin's called Get Up.
Sure.
I love this one.
All right. Yeah.
Let me just check my tuning. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Get up, get up. No time to rest or run for cover. Get up, get up, get up. Before the road pulls you under. Sleeping on embers, breathing in rivers. Waking up, shivering on summer's hottest night. Salt-crusted sweat dries dust deep in white lines. Dreaming that you find it in the nick of time. Ooh. up, get up. No time to rest or run for cover. Get up, get up, get up. Before the road pulls you under. Knock the breath out of your madness. Burn your photographs at the edges. Send your heart back from where you left it. Took a long way to come here. Got a long way to go. Climbing up switchbacks, walking through tall grass, color matches on summer's hottest night. Charred bark and dusty ash burned out 2 years back, dreaming that you find it in the nick of time. Knock the breath out of your madness. Burn your photographs at the edges. Send your heart back from where you left it. Took a long way to come here. Got a long way. Get up, get up, get up. No time to rest or run for cover. Get up, get up, get up. Before the road pulls you under. Get up, get up, get up. No time to rest or run for cover. Get up, get up, get up. Before the road pulls you under.
Wow. That is really just a beautiful song. I think I heard you both perform that in maybe another video some other time. I'm not sure, but I don't know how old that song is, but I can certainly understand how people might fall in love with your voice, Caitlin. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It resonates with me, and I feel like Sarah McLachlan should watch out.
Oh, she better watch out. No, that's very
right.
sweet.
That's right.
That song is from the record before the one Noam produced. That was 2015 it came out. So
I thought we agreed we'd only talk about the record I
there was
produced.
nothing that happened. Yeah,
so sorry,
never.
So sorry.
My life didn't start until
That's right.
the record Noam produced.
Right.
But thanks.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. And we do have one question about your playing together. And do you have any favorite tunes that you like to perform or just play together, whether you're playing in the living room or on the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can take this one,
Yeah,
I
go for
guess. So my type of music, a lot of the songs I write, I'm not necessarily just hanging around singing them at home. You go out on the road and you sing your songs and then you come home and you write new ones. But around the house, it's usually like, oh, this Lefty Frizzell song I love. Or, Tennessee Waltz. We just started playing those around the house and then liked how it sounded and put it behind a microphone on stage. So sort of those, I felt like country waltzes kept falling into their repertoire just because they were around the kitchen table
It's
here.
interesting, like half of the music we play, I feel like is like falling off of a log. It's just like, hey, we
like
called it out
this.
at a jam or a campfire. It's like, hey, we should do that on stage. Where there was no discussion of like, wait, okay, if you're capoing here, I'm going to play here, or maybe I shouldn't play on this verse. It was just like intuitive, falling off of a log. And then there's other things in the repertoire that I think is equally fun to play, where it felt like a puzzle. And it's like, okay, this song we recorded with a full band, but if we're playing it as a duo, how are we going to arrange this so people aren't going to just
miss the drums,
missing the record version of it? And so there are, like that song we just played, Get Up. Caitlin had, her guitar part is like integral to the song. Like her finger picking thing is non-negotiable. It's like it's almost like part of the lyrics as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so when I approach something like that, I can't just come in and start thinking like, well, I'm just going to play kind of B minor bluegrass banjo. I have to like almost reverse engineer what she's doing to like try to figure a way to fit into the pattern that she's doing. So it sounds like we're just kind of one more lush instrument than two instruments playing different parts. And that's, to me, that's one of the most, I think, interesting or compelling parts of playing with a singer is figuring out really what to do to make them sound better and for the song to be delivered. I think that, honestly, like I love instrumental music. I listen to tons of instrumental music. I enjoy playing instrumental music. But at the end of the day, I think there's like no higher calling for an instrumentalist than to support a singer. Like most of my favorite, I'd say all of my favorite banjo players have done that at some point in their careers, and I would say that you can't, you can't separate their work as a banjo player from what they became as part of that partnership. And so I've always loved playing with singers, and I love that puzzle of the songs. So.
If I can, when Noam plays with Stuart Duncan as a duo, that setting of they're trading back and forth the melody, but my favorite part is not when you're doing the melody or something flashy, but it's when you're backing up Stuart and the cool stuff you're doing behind where the spotlight just moved for a second. And that's one of my favorite things to listen to, and so like hearing when Noam is thinking of a song that I've put out as maybe a full band track and he's becoming the full band for something like this, or I don't know, it's just that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, there's a fine line between like supportive backup and then you could play backup that's so interesting that it actually steals the spotlight from the song, and like while it might be cool and like it might intellectually be interesting, it actually like kind of detracts from the purpose of playing with singers. So it's a fine line.
I have to say too that when music just comes together so easily, you can tell it. You can tell in the song that it was not a struggle to make this work. It's not overproduced. It's not contrived or any way. It just comes out, and it's very pleasing to just about everybody that hears it. And that's certainly the feeling that I get from the music that the two of you play together. So it's
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to just send praise your way, but it's
why not?
I think well,
fire away.
But I think a lot of people feel that way when you hear two musicians play together and the music is just effortless. Then clearly it was not difficult to put that music together and create some beautiful sound. So.
Well, that's all Noam, honestly. I just do what I do. And
you must be easy to follow then.
Yeah, it must be.
So we have a couple of questions. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Answering a couple of questions. This one is specifically for Noam. Do you play clawhammer?
I used to play clawhammer. When I first started playing banjo, I had an open back banjo that we rented from the Old Town School of Folk Music. My parents rented it. I was 8 years old. I didn't have it. I wasn't like really privy to the financial decisions of our household at the time. But I started by playing clawhammer banjo. I was taking lessons from an amazing teacher at Old Town School named Mark Dvorak, and I was super interested in clawhammer and was playing at all of the jams with the Old Town School on every Friday night, the song circles. But I wasn't obsessed with clawhammer per se. It was just it was a hobby. I started playing the banjo just out of jealousy. My brother was playing mandolin. It's true. My brother was playing mandolin because he saw a bluegrass band playing at his school, and he started taking mandolin lessons in Evanston, Illinois, right next to Skokie, where we were growing up. And for an hour each week, my mom and I, we would throw a baseball back and forth. I was a massive Cubs fan, and so my brother was in this apartment furthering himself as a human being and as a musician, and we were just throwing a baseball back and forth. No offense, baseball is great, and there was some great bonding with my mother at the time. But at some point, I just was like, I should be learning an instrument, but I didn't care what I was going to learn. I didn't have that. It's kind of embarrassing and humiliating to not have that crystallized moment that all of my heroes had, Bela and Tony Trischka and J.D. Crowe. All these people had this crystallized moment where they heard a certain recording of the banjo and they knew at that moment that they wanted to be a banjo player and they had to learn that
They're
style.
calling.
I was just this jealous 8-year-old. I was like, if my brother gets to do it, I want to learn this. And so my parents suggested the banjo, thinking that if I learned the banjo, then we'd be able to jam with each other, banjo and mandolin, as opposed to tuba or something in mandolin, which would have been cool as well. So I just started clawhammer and eventually started taking 3-finger lessons when I learned that the music that Bela Fleck and the Flecktones were playing, that was essentially a far extension of 3-finger banjo, that Bela was playing with the same plastic thumb pick and 2 metal finger picks on a Gibson Master Tone banjo, just like Earl Scruggs. I couldn't believe my ears at first when I made that, when I first heard that music, that it was the same as, type of instrument. And so I stopped playing clawhammer at that point, and started learning 3-finger style banjo, working with a teacher out of the Earl Scruggs book, and never revisited clawhammer. And I really, I wish I could play clawhammer because I love it. And some of my favorite banjo players these days are clawhammer players. If I just want to listen to banjo, my first choice these days is Adam Hurt, a clawhammer player who just plays beautiful solo clawhammer, and I'm so jealous. See, that jealousy has never left.
It's motivating.
Part of my
Since
fabric.
you were
Yeah.
8. Well, we don't need you to have had a banjo epiphany to appreciate what you do. So however you got there, even if it's out of sibling rivalry, which is kind of how I got into music too, weirdly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we were talking about that the other day on one of these live streams, that my dad was very instrumental in my life, in that he was a lifelong musician. And my sister's 2 years older than I am, and he started to teach her to play the clarinet, and that was just not going over well with me at all. And they gave me a tonette. You know what those really hard plastic little things are? They're like a whistle, but upside, no keys on it. I was really upset. I'm like, I want a real instrument. I want a real instrument. And so I was jealous because my dad was spending all this time with my sister. So I got flute lessons eventually, but I was very young. I was like 8. I was probably barely 8 when he was teaching me how to play. So we have that in common.
That's awesome.
Parents make big,
They really do.
I didn't ask for a guitar. I was always singing around the house, and I got this as a surprise, not this guitar, a guitar as a gift for Christmas, and it was a total surprise for me. And I did become obsessed with it. As soon as I got it, I had the tracks in my fingers from just pressing down the strings so much. But that was entirely, my mom and dad knew I loved singing, and they're like, well, this kind of goes along with singing, so.
But isn't it interesting, though, that out of the 3 of us, our parents didn't push us; they encouraged us.
Can't
And
push.
like a punishment for me would be to take away my flute. I mean,
Right.
that you just, and my parents never ever did that. It was more of an outlet if I was frustrated or upset or being a kid. But my parents never pushed me to do it. There was never an expectation that I needed to do it. It's just I was not going to have my sister doing something that I couldn't do too. But as time goes on, it sounds, well, my parents certainly encouraged me. They didn't, force me to do it. But I'm just curious now about the 2 of you. Did you have that same situation?
I was never forced to do this. I was a biology major, and I worked for 5 years before going. Actually, my 11-year of quitting the cubicle jobs anniversary is coming up in a few days, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I always was trying to be practical, and I just
Yeah,
loved.
didn't want to starve, right?
Love this, but well, it's not that so much as, I don't want to, of course, but it takes a while to have songs that you want to sing every night of your life and that you feel confident enough and feel are worth sharing. When you start you're just trying to figure it out, you know. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things like nobody's ever made me do it. I couldn't not do this. I tried not to, and I love it.
It's a failed effort. So I want to thank everybody for telling us what Vega means.
Cool.
So multiple people knew what Vega meant. They knew that it had to do with the star, and Tammy, she gave us a good
very
explanation here. It's the brightest star in the constellation Lyra.
Oh, my
which is very
favorite
musical.
constellation. Yeah, that's true. Oh, that makes perfect
It's
sense.
very,
that they
it's
picked
very
it. Yeah,
musical.
uh-huh.
So come on.
Yeah. Very good.
All right.
There's no stars on this though.
There is on the back though.
Oh, there is on the back.
Yep.
There you go. Oh my gosh, really?
On the back
There
of the
is a
headstock.
star
I'll try
there
to
on the headstock.
get
Look
that.
at that. Look at that.
Up there.
All right.
Zoom in, cameraman. There's the cameraman.
It's all right.
This has become
Take his
educational
word for it.
now.
Yeah.
All right. So
Who would have thunk it? Artist works, educational. Nobody ever planned on it.
nobody would know.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
would know. And let's put that in the theory section on
Yeah.
what Vega means. Okay. So a couple of people are asking about gear. Eric here seems to have gear acquisition syndrome, but
Yeah.
I did not know that that was a real thing, but it is. But some folks are asking, what kind of gear do you work with, if anything at all? No.
Are they asking like specific, like electronic gear or instrumental gear? Is there like, I'm curious. I'm obsessed with
I'm reading
old
now.
instruments. Yeah.
Well, I think it was more like there's no such thing as a pedal on a banjo. So why would somebody ask that?
Well, I guess when Punch Brothers play, and sometimes when I play solo, I have a clip-on microphone on my banjo.
Oh, stomp
and-
box.
Stomp
Excuse
box,
me, no,
yeah.
stomp box and pedals stuff.
Yeah, I have the most crucial pedal I have as far as a stomp box. It's very binary. It's a mute switch. Literally, like that's the most important pedal in a banjo player's arsenal because if you I'm serious.
But it's perfect.
No, it is like because if someone
Right.
when I go play a show, like if I get asked to be a guest on some show and they put a clip-on mic on my banjo, I say you can't attach a microphone to my banjo unless I have a way of muting it because it's so important to be able to tune in between songs and sometimes even tune during a song. And if you have a clip-on mic, then you've robbed yourself the opportunity to take a step away from the mic and like tune off mic. And so the one pedal that I always have if I have a clip-on mic for the banjo is just a mute pedal. And there have been times that Punch Brothers had more of an elaborate stage rig where everybody had pickups inside their instruments as well as these clip-on mics, and we were sending those pickups to kind of a multi-effects pedal box to kind of simulate some of the sounds that we had on a record called Who's Feeling Young Now, where we were re-amping some of the instruments. So like, my banjo was recorded with like a studio condenser in front of it, but that studio condenser was split. One end of it was going into the mixer or into the soundboard being recorded as a microphone, but the rest of it, the other side of it was going into like a vintage tweed amp, and they would combine those sounds so you have this mixture of like a clean microphone and like a breaking up of an amp. And so the only time I've taken pedals out on the road is when we were trying to do Who's Feeling Young Now material where we felt like we needed to kind of simulate some of that. But Punch Brothers is, the last time we played was in January, and it might be, I think we won't be seeing each other again until September, fingers crossed, if we're able to play in the fall. But we're back to just using clip-on microphones or just nice condensers on stage. It's a luxury to be able to only use microphones because you have to have a great sound engineer and ample sound check time to make sure that things aren't going to be too volatile. And so one thing that's nice about pickups is they're not so volatile that you could kind of just show up anywhere and you're not going to run the risk of exploding a sound system with feedback. So
Cool. Thank you for that answer. Got a couple more questions we definitely want to try to ask here. And this is along the lines of the question I had for you. Of course, we want to know what kind of musical collaborations are going on between the two of you. But what things other than music are you guys doing? Are you cooking? Are you cleaning out your sock drawer? I mean, no.
Um,
What are you guys doing
well,
exactly?
we have two dogs that are a handful that we spend a lot of time with.
Perfectly
This
trained.
is an unprecedented, uninterrupted amount of time at home, and
Yeah.
so I'm trying to train
They're so happy.
our dog Belle, who's just a little crazy, to not be as crazy. So that's one
true.
of my hobbies.
That actually is a good.
We've been cooking a lot,
Yeah.
which has been really nice. Caitlin's turned into a master chef.
Oh, wow.
A master baker, which is
Wow.
really cool.
It can be, but then your waistline starts growing.
Yeah. Oh, that
What
would
are you
never happen to
baking?
me.
Well,
What
it's
are you
just.
baking?
What have I made? I mean, there's lots of breads and things.
Breads.
I don't really get the sourdough thing that everyone's doing. For us, I feel like this time home and off has been just a normal extension of what we usually do, which is go away for a long period of time and then come home for a long period of time. It's just keeps going. Like the time when you think you're about to go back out on the road. And so usually when I get home and there's maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, like a huge chunk of home time, I'll get into gardening, or baking feels like so exciting. Oh, I can make cookies,
It's,
Yeah.
and breads,
Yeah.
but we've mostly been we've got a good garden and a lot of raised beds this year,
Nice.
and that wasn't something we were planning on doing at all because there was a lot of tour happening this spring and summer. So I was just gonna let the flowers fend for themselves. And
Yeah.
We also
well,
we live really close to where the tornadoes hit in East Nashville, like
Yeah.
40 yards from where the tornadoes hit, and so which actually hit while I was taping.
you were in
I was
Napa,
in Napa.
yeah. Oh, I
Um,
remember it.
Yeah, so that was.
There was one night you didn't
few
sleep,
days.
I remember.
I know. Yeah, we got to pinpoint which lessons were taught on no sleep.
tornado night.
We got to double check those.
Somebody
You know,
will let
the-
us know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
somebody-
He looks a little
they probably
haggard.
already have. But there's a park in our neighborhood that got really decimated by the tornado. So we spent a lot of time there trying to help with cleanup and trying to get ready to
Replanting.
replant some trees and some wildflowers and stuff. But
I know there's a lot of baking going on. Of course, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, sourdough is a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to do anywhere. I bake a lot of bread,
Yeah.
but it's hard to do sourdough anywhere else.
I'm
unless
not-
you're,
yeah.
Putting pineapple juice or vinegar or something in there, and then it's not true sourdough because
That's a definite hobby that I think a lot of people have just picked up, and I mostly am the shortcut baker. There's this Alexandra Cooks. So my mom's calling her my guru, but she's has great recipes. They're so tasty and easy, and
Yeah.
they're not fussy. So
yeah.
speaking
that's good.
speaking of San Francisco or Bay Area sourdough, when
tortilla.
last time I was out, we were both out at Hardly Strictly
Yeah.
Bluegrass Festival in Punch. I stayed an extra day because the band was doing a gala for Freight and Salvage, and so Caitlin came home a day earlier. And the day we were flying out, Paul and we woke up early and went and got breakfast at Tartine. And I thought I better bring some bread home for Caitlin. And
That's a good one.
I asked I asked the waiter what I could bring home, the server, and he said, well, we have this, and this. We have sourdough, and then he mentioned this like new sesame whole wheat. And I was like, that sounds cool. I've never tried that before. And so I came home from Tartine with this like sesame whole wheat loaf and gave it to Caitlin, and she had like a violent reaction that I didn't bring her the sourdough. It's like, how could you go?
Violent reaction. I threw it through a window.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You were so
dare you.
disappointed. Yeah,
Oh, well.
anyways, it was good bread.
It was really
Yeah.
good bread.
You still liked it. Yeah.
That's the first. I was like, "Oh, tartine! I've heard of that sourdough." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't get the sourdough." I was like, "What?" Why? Anyway, it was pretty
Yeah.
Live and
amazing.
learn.
Yes, thank you
wild.
for that
Well,
outing
he
me
thought
of
of you while he was gone,
violence.
so he gets a merit
It was
point
for you.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah.
was great. No, actually, didn't we try to go there, and there was a super line because I had played
It's always
on
packed.
It's crazy.
I had played
Yeah.
on Saturday, and then you stayed Sunday to finish off, and so I flew home. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
missed the actual
Dang.
sit down.
Dang.
But that's actually.
Next time,
Oh yeah, no.
the notion of flying to San Francisco and eating in a big restaurant seems like a fantasy.
Gosh, I know.
Yeah.
And
Fantasy, but
Napa
one
too.
day. Yeah.
I mean, we have so many outstanding restaurants here, and they're doing what they can to survive.
We
You
do
know, you
too.
can get delivery, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, no, I don't want to say a lot, but some of our really great restaurants like La Toque, the chef there, Ken Frank, is actually cooking for the food bank. So
Oh,
he's
good for him.
making meals for the food bank. So that's,
Yeah.
we're all kind of coming together. We're a small community, and we're just doing what we can, and we're happy to have more testing going on here. Not that we want to go into too much of that, but we've not had hardly any testing at all, so we're all kind of wandering around thinking we're doing just fine, but now we're starting to test more. So we're going to find out a little bit more. So there's just a couple questions here, again, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
For sure.
This is, somebody wanted to know how you tune your banjo head. Eric Anderson had that question. How do you tune your banjo head?
Well, I think it's different on each banjo. This one is pretty low, so for anyone who's not a banjo player, you tighten the head of the banjo, and the head itself, not the strings, will ring at a pitch. Where if you hit the head, you hear a note, and that sounds about
Hey,
here.
no,
Yeah.
move a little to your left, because your name is, go to your left.
Oh,
That's your
right.
right, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So you hear that, there's that pitch that corresponds to a note. This one is near an F, which is pretty darn low for a banjo. Maybe it might be why this one works well for playing kind of in this type of duo. On my main Gibson banjo, that the head is tuned closer to a G, or maybe just above a G. It's hard to hear this for some people. Like, it's hard to hear that pitch. So sometimes if you brush the head, you'll hear that sound. I wouldn't prescribe a certain head tension for, like, as an ideal thing. I think each instrument is different. I do think if you start getting the head above G sharp, if you get it above G sharp into A, you're just going to lose so much warmth and low end on the instrument. But at least, somewhere between F sharp and G sharp, I think is probably what I would say is a healthy kind of parameter. But each instrument is going to want to kind of find its own sweet spot. I've obsessed over this over the years, to one point where if my banjo was sounding really great, and I was so worried that one day the head tension would change, that I got in the habit of getting out my iPhone and turning on the voice memos and just going like, Captain's log, May 14th, 2020, Gibson top tension, and recording the pitch. And I kind of stopped doing it because it was
Because I made fun of you.
Way to go, Caitlin. Thank you.
Yeah. So now if I ever
Anytime
lose my
I heard
setup,
that sound, I would say like June 14th.
I'm not the first person to do that. My buddy Brent taught me how to do that. So.
It makes sense, and with the weather shifting all the time, when you travel with something, and if you find that sweet spot, you're like, oh, what is it? Maybe try to mark it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of releasing an album of just those voice memos. That's going to be my next release. Everyone was wondering if I had another concept record in the can, and that's what it is. So.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh boy, am I glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
Me too.
Sort of. Let's see. We are nearing the hour mark, and I wondered if you guys would like to maybe just play one last tune, or Noam, do you want to play
Sure.
something by yourself, or would you like to include your lovely wife?
Let's keep playing together. Maybe we'll do
that's
one
wonderful.
that, if you don't mind, maybe I'll pick up this metal body banjo for the last song,
Sure.
since we talked about it. We'll play Tennessee Waltz, which I kind of start solo, and then Caitlin jumps in, and so it'll be the best of both worlds,
Excellent.
hopefully.
I love that. And I know we're struggling to get to everybody's questions here, and I'm sorry about that. There's just so many of them that I wanted to just be able to enjoy the conversation with both Noam and Caitlin, and I hope that you appreciate that, because we wanted to also hear them play and have them share their music with us. So I apologize for not getting to all of these questions. I tried to answer as many as we could.
You can always join the site and come ask the question in the forum, right?
This is it. This is true.
There's the
This
pitch.
is
There's the
true.
sales pitch.
Yeah, and before we go, we want to talk about the Whiskey Sour Happy Hour Big Jam thing that you guys
sure.
did. So let's hear some music, and then we'll chat a little bit afterwards. So
Okay,
we'll hang out
sounds
for a
good.
minute. Okay.
All right.
Are we good zone?
Yep.
dancing with my darling to the Tennessee waltz when an old friend I happened to see. I introduced her to my darling while they were dancing. My old friend stole my sweetheart from me. I remember the night and the Tennessee waltz. I know how much I've lost. Oh, I lost my darling. The night they were playing that beautiful Tennessee waltz. He comes dancing through the darkness to the Tennessee waltz, and I feel like I'm falling apart. And it's stronger than drink, it's deeper than sorrow. This darkness he left in my heart. I remember the night and the Tennessee waltz. I know how much I have lost. Oh, I lost my darling. The night they were playing that beautiful Tennessee waltz.
Wow, I don't know about the rest of you, but I thought that was absolutely beautiful. One of the
Thank you.
prettiest renditions I've ever heard. And what a great combination. You're right, that banjo sounds just like perfect with Caitlin's voice. That's really wonderful. Is that a 4-string?
It actually is, yeah. It has the neck is just as long as a normal 5-string, but it doesn't have the 5th-string peg or the 5th string, so it's technically a plectrum banjo. And this was made in the 20s in Los Angeles by a company, the National Guitar Company that makes all those metal-bodied instruments. And I stumbled across it in a music store. I grew in guitars in Nashville. And I played it, and I thought it was really cool, but I didn't buy it because it seemed like I'm not sure if I'll use it. Maybe it's just a novelty purchase. It's too shiny. The sound of it really it stayed with me. And I decided one day to look it up online, and I looked up this specific model and found that the leading expert on the metal-bodied guitars, he said that when this specific model, this tricone plectrum guitar banjo, when it was introduced in the 20s, that it served no musical purpose, and he went on to say that remains true to this day. And when I read that, I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to prove him wrong. I have to have it. And so I went back and got it, and have been using it since.
Well, it starts a great conversation about banjo and 4 strings, 5 strings, claw hammer.
Especially on first dates. Yeah, it's a really great conversation piece.
How many of those have been going on lately?
Yeah, really great, Caitlin. And so I think it's only Noam Pikelny that would take his banjo on a first date.
Avoid that lull in conversation.
That's true. That's
At all
really
costs.
true.
At all costs.
So let's talk just for a moment. You're friends with Ed Helms, and I think that it's the LA Situation.
LA Bluegrass Situation, yeah.
Bluegrass. Oh, it's okay. What it used to be the LA Situation, maybe. I don't know.
I think
Maybe
it
got
used
that
to
wrong.
be.
And
yeah,
now I think
no,
it's just
you're right. It
bluegrass.
used to be the LA Bluegrass Situation, where it was mostly kind of a Southern California organization that was kind of putting on these festivals and concerts, but then it became this national organization,
Bluegrass
and so
Situation.
now it's just the Bluegrass Situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
yeah. Well, we've run into Ed. Just one moment on Ed and Steve.
Yeah.
We were at Telluride, I think in 2011, and he had been a student on Tony Trishka's banjo site, and it was pouring down rain, and we had been in the VIP section, luckily, and came flying around the corner. I don't know why we were going backstage. I honestly don't remember, but he was going one direction and we were going the other, and we just almost literally ran into each other. He's like, "Oh my God, Artist Works!"
Yeah, he's a big fan of the company.
I
He's
don't
a
think he
great-
knew our names, but he somehow knew our faces. But anyway, but then we've also worked with Steve Martin, where he's taught some of his music that was on
On Tony's
one of
school,
the,
right?
Yeah,
cool.
Right.
he
That's
taught
awesome.
one, and he did a video exchange too.
Oh, neat.
For one very happy customer. And so we recorded him in New York actually a couple of times, and I really enjoyed just meeting him briefly. He just seems like such a really nice guy, and Ed too. So you have nice friends, and I think that they're...
Yep, my best buddies, Ed and Steve. I haven't talked to them in almost an hour. No, they're good friends. They've been really strong. I don't mean like good friends in that we're like best mates, but they've been great friends and great allies to the band, to Punch Brothers, to me for our music. They're both so passionate about the music, and they're in the deep end as far as their love for banjo and bluegrass, and that passion is inspiring to me, just to see guys like that who are so talented in other fields to just kind of not all of a sudden, but to continue to focus their attention on something else and kind of put that same level of detail and obsession into all these different things. So
Yeah, they've helped. They both have helped elevate banjo, and I really appreciate that. But tell us a little bit about the Whiskey Sour Happy Hour. I watched one of them, but what'd you do recently? You had some collaboration with them.
Well, that was Ed's
yeah, so
show.
this is Ed had put together
Ed
this
Helms.
kind of quarantine show that aired every Wednesday for the last month, but it's still archived on YouTube and Facebook. It's called the Whiskey Sour Happy Hour, which is an extension of a show that he was doing live periodically in LA called the Whiskey Sour Radio Hour, which was kind of a
At Largo?
musical variety show at Largo. And so he had musicians from all over the world film themselves at home and send in these submissions, and he put together like an hour or hour and a half long variety show each week,
Comedians.
featuring musicians, comedians. Last night, Stephen Colbert was on the show, which was
Hello.
just incredible.
Yeah.
Total hero of mine. And then they finished it off last night with this amazing kind of like festival super jam type thing, but everybody recorded it remotely, where we played this version of The Wait together, where we had about 30 musicians overdub, and they asked Caitlin and I if we would play and sing on it, and we had no idea what would get used because we knew they were asking everybody, and so it just turned into this really beautiful montage. You could go watch it on YouTube. You could watch the whole series, but you could also watch The Wait, and just to see 30 or 40 musicians from across the world playing this song, and they made it sound really good.
Somehow.
It's a tricky thing to overdub and film people in, like, everyone's on a different studio rig or a home
mic.
studio or on an iPhone,
Yeah.
and they somehow pulled it all together, and it sounds really great. And they did all of that to raise money for music errors and direct relief, and so the whole thing was just a classy and awesome operation. So,
Yeah, and it makes you feel nostalgic for those festivals, that moment. I mean, the live concerts feel like, kind of normal at this point. But that
Dispensable.
that super jam moment when everybody crowds out onto the stage is just, it's like, oh, darn it, I want to hang with those
Yeah.
people now. You see your
pretty
friends
neat.
flashing by, and it was beautiful.
Well, this time apart is just going to make the reunion even sweeter, and I look forward
Yeah.
to that moment. And just want to thank both of you for spending an hour with us today and sharing
Absolutely.
your music, and
Yeah.
for everybody that joins us in these virtual events. I thank you for your participation and your kind words and your support for Artist Works and for Noam and for Caitlin as well. We're always happy to have people in the audience asking questions and telling us where they're from. It really makes it a community event here, and I really enjoy it myself personally, and hope that you'll continue to join us. We will keep doing we call them dispatches from home. And next week, tomorrow, let me tell you about tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow at 4:30, we're going to have John Patitucci on at 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. And we'll be announcing our schedule on Facebook here in the next day or so for next week. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope to welcome you sometime soon, maybe on one of the banjo schools or in any school at Artist Works. And so I hope you all have a safe and wonderful evening, and see you next time.
Cheers, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Bye.
Bye-bye.